try that at some point in the future. We should make it as easy as possible for somebody that wants to come into this country and work to be able to get a work visa. I'm not talking about a green card. I'm not talking about citizenship. I'm talking about a work visa that should entail a background check and a Social Security card so that applicable taxes get paid. The reason there's illegal immigration, which is greatly misunderstood, is because there are jobs in the United States that United States citizens don't want to take. And it's just that simple. Make the line moving to get across the border to take these jobs that exist, and I guarantee you Mexican citizens will stand in line to make that happen. I was the one in New Hampshire saying to all those New Hampshireites that said we need to build a wall across the border, well then let's just build a wall across the Canadian border, to which the response was, but it's not an issue. And you don't believe me that it's not an issue with Mexico? It's not an issue. It's a made-up, it's a political boogeyman.
Mr. Peterson.
I'd like to build a wall around Donald Trump and make Bernie Sanders pay for it. I believe in a free market in labor. I believe that a free market in labor is just as valuable as a free market in commodities. My ancestors came over through Ellis Island. They had a simple security check, a disease check, and they were done. And America has flourished. The height of American progress has come because of us, because of our immigrant nation. And that is what unifies us. Even though we are a multi-pluralist democracy, we're a multicultural democracy, and that's what makes it beautiful. Especially if you love Greek food or if you love halal, that diversity is what makes us great, and I want to expand on that. And as President of the United States, I would use wide leeway in using my powers of deportation, simply only to people who commit violent crimes. Otherwise, come here. We need work visas. We need student visas. We shouldn't be sending students back who come here for our higher education for the best colleges in the world and then send them back after we've trained them and educated them. We need them here. So I believe in a free market in labor, and I will stand firm on that as President of the United States.
And Mr. Perry.
Dr. Martin Luther King, in his letter from the Birmingham jail, wrote something along the lines of, "No man has a moral obligation to follow an unjust law." The immigration laws that we have are not just, they're not fair, and they don't abide by the U.S. Constitution that says that there shall be a uniform standard for naturalization. The current immigration laws rely on quotas and various other things. But if you have a high-level degree, then you go to the front of the line. If you can throw a baseball really fast, you go to the front of the line. If you can win the United States gold medal in an Olympic sport, you go doubly fast to the front of the line. And everybody else that's just a regular person trying to get into the country to make a better life for themselves, they stay where they are or they move backwards in the line. That is why we have illegal immigration. And secondarily, the people that advocate build a wall 30 years ago would have been chanting along with Ronald Reagan, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall." So they're being completely hypocritical in their position. And they're also looking at what can only be described as Schrodinger's immigrant, that immigrant that steals your job whilst simultaneously being too lazy to work and taking all of your welfare. So you can't have it both ways, and I do not advocate for hypocrisy. I advocate for maximum human freedom, which means if you want to come here, welcome.
Thank you. We will begin with candidate Perry. The largest warehouser of mental health patients in America is our nation's prison system. The system is overwhelmed. The people that staff it are undertrained. What, if anything, would be your plan to deal with treating the mentally ill instead of categorizing them as criminals?
Well, the first thing you need to do is stop criminalizing health problems and mental problems. You need to stop criminalizing. If you believe that you own yourself and that every human being is a sovereign, independent individual, and they have the right to determine what is best for themselves as long as they don't cause unjust harm to another person, you need to stop using force to coerce people to wind up getting treatment that they may or may not want. So what you need to do is get the government completely out of the mental health problem, or rather the mental health issue. You need to get government completely out of throwing people in jail for having drug problems, because that's a medical problem, not a criminal problem. So we need to get the government completely out of it, let the free market
Thank
work
you,
on it.
Candidate Perry. Candidate Peterson?
I completely agree with Mr. Perry again. And can I be intellectually honest here and say I don't know? I don't know what I would do because I don't know everything, and I haven't studied this problem. So in order for me to give you a full answer and to be intellectually honest with you, I would have to sit down and look at the studies from people like the Cato Institute or Mises and try and find the best problem. And I would go out and I would find the best scholars to find a solution to this. But at the moment, because I don't know everything, I don't really know how it would solve that problem at the moment, so I'd like to be honest with you instead.
Okay, thank you. Candidate Johnson?
We have the highest incarceration rate in the world, 2.3 million people. I think at the heart of that incarceration rate is the war on drugs. And I offer you up a prediction. I think that California in November is going to vote to legalize marijuana. And as a result of that, I think that will be the tipping point. I think that virtually 20 states overnight will in fact then legalize marijuana. Point is, we're taking a quantum leap forward as a country when it comes to drugs and our knowledge of drugs, and that it is a health issue, really, not a criminal justice issue. So we need to address the 2.3 million people behind bars. I think it's going to happen with regard to the drug war. And then I think legislatures all over the country, and something that I just weighed in New Mexico, is mandatory sentencing.
Thank you.
Mandatory sentencing is also adding to this in a really big way. Resources need to be directed toward the mentally ill. It is a huge issue. We can do that by reducing the population of the prisons as they currently exist, and we're on track to do that.
Thank you, Candidate. Candidate McCarthy.
Having had no small experience with drugs, I would like to say that things like addiction, a heroin addict, the addiction is its own punishment, pure and simple. We do not need to punish drug addicts, marijuana users, the mentally ill. The affliction is its punishment, period. If we were to empty the prisons of all nonviolent drug users, they would be half empty. Half of our problem would disappear immediately. And believe me, if I'm elected president, it will be my top priority to pardon, which is within the president's power, all nonviolent drug users. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Feldman.
Well, I would start off by saying that the marijuana taxes that support drone warfare, surveillance in our culture and our military interventions around the world will not make us more free. I'm not in favor of legalizing marijuana like alcohol and tobacco. It should be normalized like caffeine and chocolate. I would pardon 10,000 nonviolent incarcerated people on my first day in office. These would be people who are already set up with non-government organizations to lead them towards self-sufficiency so they can take care of their own wives and children and families. We cannot, though, empty our prisons without setting up social structures. There are reasons why there are millions of people. It's not just the drug war. The problem is we now have a government that does not represent the people. When government represents the people, the police serve and protect the community. When government represents the special interest in multinational corporations, then our police are an army of occupation to enforce the law on the people. There's a reason why we have 2.3 million people in jail. We have to change it.
Thank you, sir.
Now, I've been told that we've actually gone over our time limit here tonight, so that is short. But we will give each candidate a 2-minute closing statement, starting with the left side with Dr. Feldman.
Thank you very much. I want to take us forward and think not just of our Libertarian primary, but think of the 100 million non-voters, people like me who were disgusted by the Democrats and Republicans and thought they couldn't make a difference. What we need to have is a credible, reasonable alternative. Gary Johnson was the best candidate, but he only got 1 million votes. I couldn't understand it. He got 55% or so as a Republican governor. Why he only got 3% as a Libertarian? I asked somebody in New Mexico, They said that they had spoken to some friends and said, why didn't you vote for Gary Johnson? He was a great governor. They said, oh, was it that Gary Johnson?
Oh, wow.
We need to get our message out. It's a new world. They used to say the medium is the message, that you have to be on television. Well, it's a new world. There's an internet. The medium is no longer the limiting factor. The limiting factor is the attention of the people. If they're not hearing our message, maybe the problem is our message. Liberty is not just freedom. Liberty is freedom and power. You can't have the freedom to choose unless you have freedom and you have choices. This is the problem of the 100 million non-voters. It's not that people that there's too much regulation or the government's too big. They don't have the resources, they don't have the options, they don't have jobs they can apply for. We need to build up the private system. Our government has gotten so big that it's caused our private social safety nets to wither away, so we can't even support people if we want to.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. McAfee.
I know of no American that is not a libertarian. I know of no one who does not believe our government is too big. I know of no one who does not feel the loss of liberty and freedom. I know of no one who does not feel the loss of privacy. And I know no one who believes that it's okay to run around and hit people and steal their stuff. We are all libertarians. It's just that we have been deluded, mesmerized by two major machines in this company called the two parties. The Democratic and Republican systems are machines that chew up the soul of everyone who enters them, no matter who you are. And we just need to let the American people know who they are in their heart, and that they have an option, and this is the option, because there is no other. Thank you.
Governor Johnson.
Good news, bad news. In 1999, I was the highest-ranking government official, elected government official, to call for the legalization of marijuana. Bad news, in 2016, I am still the highest-ranking elected official to call for the legalization of marijuana. As governor of New Mexico, I was more outspoken than any governor in the country regarding school vouchers, bringing competition to public education. Right now, there is a silver bullet to the system. The silver bullet to the system is term limits, something that I absolutely support and hope to push as a candidate for president. Look, if you want somebody that's honest and really hardworking and really a fierce competitor, I'm telling you, this is a rigged game. And having done it in 2012, I learned a lot of lessons from 2012, and that's one of the reasons for the lawsuit against the Presidential Debate Commission, which at the end of the day, one of us will end up potentially being on stage, and that changes the game. Gee, it was the Gary Johnson that was governor of New Mexico, and I get it. I get it. People, we spent $1 million, the Democrat spent $1 billion, the Republican spent $1 billion. We got 1.3 million votes. Do the math.
Thank you.
Mr. Peterson.
I'm not sure if some of you are familiar with the film American Sniper, soldier Chris Kyle. His father told him a story about that there are three different types of people in this world. There are sheep, there are wolves, and there are sheepdogs. And right now we have two wolves who are vying for the highest office in the land. And the libertarians, we are the sheepdogs. We are sent out to protect the American people. Yes, we are. And that is what I want to be, as a sheepdog. When I was in second grade, there was a girl who everybody picked on and nobody liked. And nobody would play with her, and I went over and I taught her how to play on the monkey bars, and I didn't do it because people were watching, because nobody was watching, except for the principal of my school, Mrs. Benner, who wrote me a note later and said, Austin, thank you so much for protecting her and looking out for her when nobody else would. And that's what I will be to the American people, because I love this country. I love this country from sea to shining sea, this sweet land of liberty. And I will restore that constitutional republic that was the promise of the founding fathers. And I hope that you will elect me, your next candidate for president of the United States.
Candidate Perry.
They say that politicians answer the question they want, not the question that was asked, and I'm actually going to do something that makes me ashamed a little bit. I am going to put myself in that politician category and answer a question that I hear all the time. Darrell, what would you do what would be the first thing that President Perry does after taking the oath of office? And my response is, if I'm allowed to actually take the oath of office, because I don't know if I could swear to uphold the Constitution of these United States of America, because I want to see the United States of America disbanded. But if by some chance I were allowed to make acts as president without actually saying I do, then the very first thing I would do is pardon Private Manning, pardon Ross Ulbricht, the creator of the Silk Road, the online market that made buying things from the black market safer, and I would drop all charges against Edward Snowden. I would then pardon every nonviolent offender that's in a federal prison, and as quickly as possible, I would bring home every troop around the world. What I will do as a candidate for president, as I have said numerous times, is I will, as loudly as possible and as boldly as possible and as often as possible, advocate the ideas of liberty 100% on every issue, every time.
I'd like to thank the candidates on behalf of Mississippi and Alabama, and I think everybody needs to kind of give a hands to Aaron Barksdale for throwing this together. Aaron? And I turn you over to the loving hands of Danny Bedwell.
Wow. Wow. What a debate. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for the candidates one more time. This is the arguments that America hasn't been hearing. They haven't heard these arguments before, and they're hearing them now. And thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, candidates. Y'all have a good night. Do not forget your tokens. We have ballot boxes out at the registration table. The question that is asked, if the election is held today, who would you vote for? Also, the candidates are going to be gathering in the back for some photo ops, some grip and grin photographs. So thank you.